Meeting guitarist and songwriter Scott Patetsky at a local party, Manson began to channel his creative energy into making music.
We started working together, and he convinced me to buy a drum machine, which I liked very, very much. And even though he wasn't a singer per se, you know, he got his ideas out. You know, kind of a talk singing sort of thing. And we were into industrial, and nobody in industrial really sang. It was just any melodies were achieved by, you know, synthesizers or samples. But it made for a really good combination. It was a very bizarre, surreal, not quite metal, not quite industrial, very ugly, weird thing, and I didn't think anybody would get into it or fall for it, but it worked out. And shortly after we had a body of songs together, we recruited Brian and Perry, who became, I believe it was Olivia Newton-Bundy and Zsa Zsa Speck to my Daisy Berkowitz and Brian Warner's Marilyn Manson.
Brian came to me and said, hey, me and Scott recorded this cassette, and, you know, listen to it, tell me what you think, because I want to do a band. And it's called Marilyn Manson, and, you know, this is the idea I had, and you're going to have these names, and it was going to be kind of a shock band, but it was going to be a joke. You know, it wasn't to be taken seriously. And I listened to the cassette, and for a 4-track cassette, I mean, it was good. It was definitely original sound. Brian sounded good, especially for the first time actually singing. His lyrics were good.
But what really got me that was funny was the idea of using combination names, where, you know, we use the female first name of the first name, I should say, of a female icon, like a positive female icon, and the last name of a mass murderer or a serial killer or a cult leader. And when we came up with Marilyn Manson and Daisy Berkowitz, that was too funny. So when we got everybody else to be anybody else to be a part of the band, they adopted the same names in a similar way, like Olivia Newton-Bundy and Zsa Zsa Speck. And
I think I confessed to him that my first masturbation experience was with Olivia Newton-John, and so he just said, you know, this is going to be your name. What do you think? And that was perfect for me because, you know, that worked. I was into Volkswagens too, which, you know, Ted Bundy's into Volkswagens, so so that worked out good. And you know, he just kind of kept that going with everybody's names. I really don't know the stories why he picked the other female names for the other people. I don't know if they've had experiences of masturbation with with those celebrities or not.
Well, one of the points of the name was to almost a mockery of controversy, a mockery of the phoniness of show business, you know. But I thought it was interesting to take those two because of their history in popular culture, how America has put them on the same status. They're equally memorable, you know, for their own separate reasons.
I think the original defining concept of Marilyn Manson as a band and as a persona, if you like, is one of contrasts. You have one of the world's principal icons of sexuality, of the sex kitten personified in Marilyn Monroe, and against that you have what's effectively became a sort of secular version of Satanism in the form of Charles Manson. You don't just get the contrast. What Manson was also interested in was the way in which kids were increasingly looking at serial killers as almost icons.
People love reading about serial killers. People love to read about ex-models, you know. People knew them. The names were already there, and it just put a little, you know, ring in person's head, and, you know, the kids are into anything evil.
Getting a gig at Churchill's, a small venue in Miami, everything was ready for Marilyn Manson and the spooky kids to take the stage for the very first time.
It was late winter 1990. We had a small body of songs together with the 4-piece setup and a drum machine. And we had our first show April 28th, 1990 at Churchill's Hideaway down in Miami.
When we were opening for a band called The Goods, which were mainstream kind of almost a pop rock, and here we are just, you know, very underground. I know we went to, I was just graduated cosmetology school, so we went back to my school and we just got like all the used mannequin heads so we could place them on stage, and we would, you know, put little X's on their foreheads and stuff like that. It was very low budget. We had a drum machine. Churchill's in itself is a very small kind of just, you know, it's a dive bar that bands like to play at.
Went out to Churchill's is a small, very unique pub, believe it or not, in Miami, English pub. And I was just got off the road, and I went to have a beer there and see my friend, the owner, Dave Daniels, and I saw Marilyn on stage for the first time. It was a scary experience, basically because Marilyn, it was very noisy, very raw. Marilyn didn't have a drummer, and I felt that it was an experience that I didn't want to experience again, so to speak.
I think it went over fairly well. Brian had extreme stage fright, and he continued to have that throughout our times playing together. He would, we'd be walking on stage, and he'd be throwing up as he was walking on stage. I mean, there was times that, you know, we're starting a song, and he was nowhere to be, you know, be found, and he was like, okay, is he going to come out and, you know, and sing or not? And but Churchill's was definitely, you know, you kind of knew after playing Churchill's that there's something there. It definitely could work, and it, you know, it had to be refined, and you could see the potential behind it, and you could see Brian's character starting to evolve at that time.